MyMac Podcast 941, Where to Make Stuff.
Hi everyone and welcome to this week's mighty MyMac Podcast. Well folks, the likes of the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, CEO of Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, I think that's how you pronounce it, and CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, all met with the Prime Minister of India, Narendra. I think it's Narendra Modi. No, in the end, I think it's Narendra.
It's Khan Noonien Singh.
I'm not sure. Anyway, Narendra Modi they met at the White House earlier this week. Hang on a minute, if they met at the White House, is Narendra Modi your new president? No,
president?
Possibly not. Anyway, last week they all met last week following an earlier in the week meeting with Tesla, Twitter, and SpaceX leader Mr. Elon Musk. Well, the G-men just wonder what they could have been talking about this week in the second section of the show. I'm looking forward to it. And when we say the G-men, we probably mean Guy, but that's fine. Yeah. How are you, Guy?
And no bounce.
Boing.
And I said something
Boing,
about it.
said Zebedee, time for bed.
I guess I really didn't have to say anything if it actually works the way it's supposed to. Here's the thing, guys.
Here's the thing.
If I could have, I would have.
Yes, indeed. How are you, Guy?
Be? Oh, who's going to go first here?
You are.
I'm going to go first. Okay, well, you remember last week I was talking about I had the upcoming appointment with the fake eye guy, who probably, if I went up to him and said, "You're the fake eye guy," he would be completely and horribly offended, and I wouldn't blame him. But in order to speak with the fake eye guy and do all the things that the fake eye guy was going to do, a very uncomfortable time was had by all. The uncomfortable rating was quite high, and not unlike fine garments, there first had to be a fitting, Gaz. And the way this works, I really couldn't believe it. Now, I actually posted a picture on Facebook with my wife and I sitting in the waiting room, and I had this big Tootsie Roll pop in my mouth. It was a very funny picture. If you go to Facebook, look me up, you'll see it. But the way it works is he's got this little plasticky thing, and he opens the eye, puts that in, and then he has this goop that he puts in through a little hole, and it's to make a mold.
Right. So
he's making the mold, and the stuff is like super cold, and he's like, okay, don't blink, don't be looking around, because it needs to be, static exactly where your eye is going to be in its normal resting position. And in the meantime, I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. Oh, I don't like this. Make it stop, mommy. Make it stop. But there was no stopping the eye goop.
No.
And it only lasted like a minute and a half, though it felt like a week and a half, quite frankly, as he was doing it.
I can assure you, a minute and a half is a long time. I have stood on many a rugby field, and I am the arbiter of time when it comes to a minute silence that may be happening for one reason or another within whichever club I am at that time. And a minute feels like forever. So to ask you to stand there or sit there or whatever you had to do for a minute and a half and not look around and just stare into space, relaxed. Wow. Try that at home, folks. Try it at home now. Stop the podcast, folks. Go away, get your timers out on your phone or your watch, whatever, and just sit there and look directly forward in a relaxed position for a minute and a half.
Now imagine doing that, but with like this cold gel in your eye, or like where your eye used to be. It was
do it just after you've put some eye drops in, folks. That'll be closer to what the experience is that Guy had. Not brilliant, but closer.
It was not fun at all. But after he makes the mold, and then he comes back and shapes it a little bit, puts it in, takes it out, shapes it a little more, puts it in, takes it out. And this goes on for like about an hour.
Good grief.
As he's like putting some stuff on, shaving some stuff off, and well, how does that feel? How's that? It's like, well, it feels like crap the entire time. I'm sorry, it just does. And then, all right, the cool part, well, sort of cool.
Sort of cool.
In retrospect, it was cool. Once he once he has it to where he thinks it needs to be, he looks me like straight in my good eye, and he's looking at the mold, and then he puts like a little tiny hole in the center of it. And then he gets this little black stick and puts that little plastic stick, puts that in where the hole is, puts it back in my eye, not with the stick pointing in, but pointing out. And then he has me start looking around. Now, of course, I can't see any of this.
Yeah.
And my wife was watching this, and she was both, fascinated and completely grossed out by everything. Exactly. Now, if you watch the video, you'll see what Gaz is doing, but that's kind of what was happening.
Yeah.
One of the cool parts.
Pirates of the Caribbean with a wooden eye and a fork in it comes to mind.
Exactly. And I say that this is the cool part, and that is entirely subjective to your the way you personally feel about me talking about this. But with the mold, with the little stick pointing out, he was having me look around the room, and Tracy was like, wow, it's like the little stick is like following along where your other eye is going. And what this means is once it's complete and it's in my face, then as I look around,
the eye moves.
The fake pupil, because it's not going to let me see. That's just
no. I get that.
Steve Austin, the Bionic Man.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if you could have some of that, really. Some extra technology in the eye to give you an advantage elsewhere.
Well, I asked him about that, and he was like, look, I just make fake eyes. I can't do the other stuff. But I was like, but sir, I'm barely alive, and I have $6 million burning a hole in my pocket. I wish. Anyway.
So really, this is all to make other people feel comfortable, not you, isn't it? Really?
Oh, it's not to make me feel comfortable.
No,
not at all. There was nothing comfortable about this at all. The one thing I didn't realize because I asked him, I said, well, do I take this out every night? Because I've seen the procedure on how to put it in and take it out. And I won't, I've gone into so much of this, but I won't go into that. It's not really that big of a deal, but whatever.
We should have a gross warning. We should have a gross warning on this podcast.
Sensitive content. Basically, once it's in, I leave it in for like 2 weeks at a time, and I just take it out for 15, 20 minutes to wash it, and then put it right back in for another 2 weeks. So it's relatively permanent once it's all done.
Yeah. Wow.
The other thing
that's going to gross people out when you do that as a party trick.
Well, I won't do it in the middle of a podcast and be like, oh, hold on a second.
No.
I'm going to do this other thing.
No, but your Christmas party trick for the family is going to
be, or while on the subway, while they're serving meals on a flight.
And then what you do is you take the eye and you start looking around like this.
Yes.
Moving your arm around.
Oh, I can't see the mountains on the other side of the plane.
You'd get some screaming dabs on that.
Now that you've put that thought in my head,
you're going to do it, aren't you?
I'll probably have to do it. Oh, because what is the point of having a minor disability if I can't make other people feel uncomfortable about it?
Absolutely.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And if any of you have been
it's got to be an upside here.
If anybody of you have been affected by our conversation, go and speak to somebody. Anyway, I don't know who, but just go and speak to somebody.
It didn't even have to be about this. Just, talk to somebody.
No.
So the other thing that happened last week, I had a PET scan. And it's like more invasive than a CAT scan. And even that was weird because the CAT scan, I go in and they put like the stuff in my blood so that, the CAT scanner can read it. And it's all pretty much said and done in a half hour, 45 minutes. With this stuff, they wheel me into this room, or they don't wheel me. I walk into this room and they have this recliner. It's like one of those lazy boy recliners. And I'm sitting in it. And he puts the stuff in my arm, and that's always fun. And then he says, "Okay, I'll be back in about an hour." He was like, "What? What? An hour?"
Wait, what?
And he was like,
Wait,
"Yeah,
what?
that stuff takes some time to go through your system." And I'm sitting here thinking, why the hell did I agree to this? But well, too late. It's in there. And he turns out the lights, and I was telling him, I said, "Well, I wish I'd brought my phone." And he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no,
No,
no,
no,
no,
no, no, no,
no.
no, no.
We don't want any, activity, or we just want you just to sit here nice and quiet." And he's like, "You just don't know me at all, do you?" Not at all. And it was the same kind of thing when they were doing the scan, because they did an upper and a lower. And when they did, well, actually, when they did either one of them, I basically had to sit there without moving for like 10, 15 minutes at a time. And again, just so hard for me to do. It's like, put some pictures up on the ceiling or something, because I
Yeah,
got nothing to
yeah.
look at here.
Pictures
Nothing
of
too.
clouds, anything.
Yeah, yeah. No naked women, that's not
No,
what I'm
no,
asking for.
no.
People
Just,
might get upset about something. And of course I would too.
of course you
Yeah.
would.
Very, very upsetting.
Absolutely.
We'll find out. We'll find out all that stuff that's going on next week. So that was my flipping week, Gaz.
Good
How was your
grief.
flipping week?
Well, normal volunteering earlier in the week, and I went out for two bike rides this week. One on my
Nice.
Jack Jones, and one with the lovely Mrs. G, who went on her electric bike. And I did about 34 miles, I think, on my own. So relatively short for big bike fans, but it was all right. Enjoyed it, and we did about I think we did about 17, 18, which was supposed to be just a quick ride, but we've had some warm weather over here, so
Ooh,
going out in the really hot weather is not a good thing at all. And last night I went out to a black tie event at a rugby club because it was their centenary celebrations. That's two rugby club centenary celebrations I've been to this year, and I think the
nice.
Referee Society centenary celebrations will be coming up probably in the next year or two. So yes, all good fun, good clean fun. So very little on my Mac,
Ooh, 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 ooh.
just to do the podcast. So on that, I think I should jump straight into Gaz's snippets. Right, let me see if I can find it. I must admit, I've actually been using.
We'll jump into them once you find them. That's
Well,
how
no,
that
the
works.
thing is, I've been using, I used to use my iPad, which I use Net Newswire, and I'd have
Right.
that in front of me ready. But now, because I've got lots of windows with, the Farrago, and I've got the image of you coming through the web on
StreamYard.
StreamYard, and
Yeah.
then we've got our show notes open, and I've got my other notes open, and then I've got to find Net Newswire because I've been doing them on my Mac.
Ooh,
Wow,
ooh,
I think
ooh.
I'm just gonna do this.
Okay.
Right, Gazzy snippets. That's better. That's better. Apple, the company, looks to secure rights to the image of apples, the fruit, in Switzerland. However, the Fruit Union Swiss, the oldest and largest farmers' organization in Switzerland, has used this red apple with a white cross in its logo for most of its 111-year history. But the group is now worried that it may have to change its logo because Apple, the tech giant, is trying to gain intellectual property rights over the depiction of apples. Well, I don't think it'll be quite that bad. We shall see and watch that
I don't
story.
think they'll be able to do it.
Well, no, I don't. I think, you can't.
They shouldn't be able to do it.
You shouldn't be able to patent just a picture of a fruit, but because their logo is, you say, it's red and it's got the Swiss red, the Swiss flag in it. So
Is there a bite out of it?
No.
Okay, well then Apple should just STF.
Yeah, I think we'll watch this, but it's probably going to die on the wind. It's going to be a maggot in the apple. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. An Apple Watch has alerted, and now I stopped doing these stories, but because obviously I had the issue, not the issue, but I've had the indication that I may have a very slow BPM, and we're going through the process of trying to understand what that means and whether I'm affected by whether I need a pacemaker even, because if my thyroid glands are not telling my heart to beat at the right pace, then I might need a pacemaker to tell my heart to beat at the right pace. But I don't think it's going to be quite that bad. And I went off telling stories about how the Apple Watch had been helping people. But since
Yeah.
that issue, I saw one last week, and it was an Apple Watch has alerted a 29-year-old Cincinnati woman to a blood clot in her lungs while she was sleeping. More reason, folks, that if you've got an Apple Watch, the battery is just superb. It doesn't take for long for the watch to actually charge up when you pop it back on its charger in the morning. You should be wearing this stuff. Now, false alarms, I'll come to false alarms later on in the snippets, but false alarms of your own personal health nature, doctors won't mind that. They don't mind if it's a false alert, and you won't mind. But if it's real, then obviously it could save your life. So
You want to know about it.
you do. Apple might have to make iPhone batteries easier for users to replace, according to possible EU rules that are kicking in. It's a proposed legislation, or it was a proposed legislation back in December, and the EU Parliament has overwhelmingly voted in favour of endorsing the plan. How this is going to affect phones going forward, I do not know, because personally, I do not want to go back to being able to easily change my battery myself. However, what I would like to be able to do is obviously go somewhere that can do it professionally and make it relatively easy, therefore not too costly to do. So we'll see where that goes.
There's one other thing. By making them more easily accessible, it also means that the batteries themselves will have to be smaller.
Yes,
in
agreed.
the same amount of space,
because it's got to have
battery
a
life
frame.
is going to suffer in comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. Apple TV Plus series Metropolis has been permanently shut down. Apparently,
never even heard of it.
No, nor would I. Sam Ezel's years in the making adaptation of Fritz Lang's classic 1927 film Metropolis has been permanently shut down due to labour unrest against the background of economic headwinds. That's a shame. It might have been quite good. Apple has expanded the self-service repair and update system configuration process. That's a story from Apple directly, and that's it.
Okay.
Enjoy. Apple Vision upgrade program would be the perfect option for this tech. Actually, Carl spoke about this on the Mac and Forth show, and I'd actually already grabbed this story, but he's now thinking that I stole it from him. Well, Carl, you think what you like. Yes, I kind of agree with this, but I'm not sure whether it'd work with an upgrade program for the Vision Pro, because I'm not sure that you're going to get this device coming out quite as regularly as you do with a phone. And, the upgrade program, I think they're going to be different versions of it. So you're going to then pay more to go to the next one. I'm not sure about this.
It's going to have to be, because, number one, and you guys talked about this on the Mac and Forth show, that $34.99 price tag is probably just for the base model.
Yeah.
So if you add more storage or what have you, you're probably looking at $4,000 plus. So what kind of monthly payment would you have to make in order to justify getting a new one every year or a year and a half, or whenever it is that they're going to update these things? And I get the feeling that early on in the process, there will be at least yearly updates, at least until it gets to a
we'll see.
More settled form factor.
Yeah, we'll see. So, I mean, this is a rumor. I don't tend to do rumors there, but I did pick up on this upgrade program because I
Yeah.
think it's a possible viable option, but we shall see. Apple's next gen machine learning leader departs for an AI non-profit. Ali Farhadi, one of Apple's key machine learning executives, is departing the company to take over as CEO of the Allen Institute of Artificial Intelligence. We'll have to
Hmm.
wait and see how much of an impact that has on Apple's AI
Yeah. He's going to
learning
join
sector.
Cy Sagoin.
Size are going. I love that. We still love that. Looks like Japan is going to force Apple to allow third-party app stores for the iPhone.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that Apple are going to come out with a very neat way of doing this and making it quite clear that you're basically taking your life in your hands if you want to do this.
I'm sorry. I just don't see the advantage of having another app store. I mean, some of the apps may end up being a little less expensive, but your main apps, regardless of what store you get them from, are going to cost roughly the same.
Well, yeah. I mean, is it Epic who wanted this? Is it Tim at Epic? Is it Epic, the company?
Yeah, Tim Mc oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
almost said a bad word there. Tim.
basically, he just wants his own store. So how that's going to work, I don't know. We
Well,
shall
yeah.
see. We
Well,
shall
he not
see.
only wants his own store, he wants to basically act like Apple does in his own store.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
hypocrisy of what
Oh,
Epic is
totally,
doing
totally,
is
totally.
like it blows my mind that
Yeah.
anyone could defend this douchebag. Sorry. I just
That's
don't like
Guy's
him.
personal opinion. Buying an
Yes.
iPhone in the US costs 2% of your annual salary, but more than 100% in a couple of other countries. Now, I haven't actually written down what those two other countries were. So if you can just give me a second, I will see. Crikey, there's a whole list. I'm not going to put a link to this in the thing in the show notes, but apparently Pakistan and Nigeria, an iPhone uh, cost 104.1% in Pakistan of your annual salary. This is obviously an average salary, and 105.3% in Nigeria.
And how is there like any methodology that they're saying that would help make this discrepancy go away? Oh, wait. No, there
Well,
isn't.
there isn't, and they can't because obviously it's down to the value of the countries, and the
Yeah.
salaries that people get in those countries. Apparently, the cheapest area is Switzerland. So Switzerland have a very high salary rate. That's
It's
average
just
salary rate. That's what. Yeah.
I don't know. People aren't happy unless they're the victims of something, I suppose, or advocating
um,
for victimhood for somebody else.
Apple CEO Tim Cook said about Ted Lasso, "I sure hope there's a season 4."
Uh,
What?
I don't
Watch,
know.
watch this space.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Honestly, it ended so well that
yeah. Well, offshoots. I think offshoots. We shall see. We shall see. Let's not um,
yeah.
speculate on that. Another Apple Union busting tactic found to be illegal: coercively interrogating staff. What I like is the picture on this one because it's got somebody all wired up with the wires coming to a computer. We are interrogating you, and we shouldn't be doing it.
So you want to be unionized? I see.
um,
Sign
macOS
the papers.
macOS Ventura 13.4.1 has been updated. iOS
Get it.
16.5.1, iPad OS 16.5.1 has also been updated, and I think the Apple Watch has been updated as well. But I'm not
Yes.
sure what version that is. But yeah, you need to get it because there's some big security issues on those.
Oh yeah. Some 0-day stuff that's already out there too.
Yeah. Apparently, Apple have said that their developer tools to create spatial experiences for Apple Vision Pro are now available. So we're gonna now start hearing, I think, slowly over the next the next few months for about a year until the Vision Pro actually comes out. We're going to start hearing lots of developers talking about this and showing little snippets of what they could possibly do. Although the difficulty with this is, how do you actually experience what they're doing unless you've got this particular Apple Vision Pro? Yeah. Apparently, Guy, you can download new CarPlay wallpapers for iOS 17, which obviously isn't out yet. CarPlay wallpapers? You really
is
that
that
into
like
a thing?
something? Yeah,
It's a
that's
thing?
something that we need to be worried about.
No,
Oh, I see you've
no.
got the old wallpaper for
Yeah,
CarPlay. Huh.
yeah, yeah.
You,
That
you can just
obviously.
let me out here. I cannot stay in this car with you, sir.
Apparently, Apple has finally removed the fake Microsoft Authenticator app from the App Store. Wow.
Yeah. And the odd
Wow.
thing was, it was actually made by Microsoft. Huh.
Are you making a joke there, or did you know that?
Of course. That's a joke. It's not
Good.
real. I'm just kidding. God. We love Microsoft here. They are a wonderful company. We always speak so highly of them. Don't we, Gaz?
And then we peel them with our metal knives. Yeah, that's that's an old UK advert. You might have had that in the US as well. Smash. Do you remember Smash? Instant
What was it?
potato. Mashed potato, instant mashed potato. Folks, go out and look for the Smash adverts. They are very old, but they are very funny. Anyway, guess what, Guy?
Tell me.
Apple shares hit a new all-time intraday and closing heights, closing at $187.04.
Jaw drops in amazement.
Older iPads and phones also had updates to 15.77 and iPad OS 15.77, and Monterey and Big Sur got updates 12.6.7 and 11.7.8. So please, folks, go out and update. I know it sometimes feel like it's a pain, but just do it.
Yeah, doesn't take that long.
LG are to bring AirPlay to hotel room TVs later this year. LG and Apple do have quite a good relationship with each other, don't they?
Yeah, don't they make the screens for the studio displays?
I think they do. Now, I put this in bit of an oddball comment, but I'm going to follow it up. Apple reportedly, Guy, are in discussions with banks to launch Apple Card in India. Guess what, Guy? I expect Apple are reportedly in discussions with banks all across the world to launch Apple Card in their equivalent country. Good grief.
Right now, there's a banker in North Korea just sitting at his desk going, they're not saying anything to me at all.
Because bankers in North Korea listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Did you say North Korea?
Get your
or
act
South
together,
Korea?
North Korea. That's what the G-men say.
Apparently, the Australian PM has echoed the cybersecurity advice of turning off your iPhone 5 minutes every day. It's a security thing that's going on at the moment. So not only will it reduce your screen time, Guy, but it could well make your phone safer. Because there is a possible security flaw at the moment where if you've got to click on a website, I think, or you can have an attack from a link sent to you by text, and then that puts a Trojan onto your phone, and that Trojan will stay live while your phone is booted up. So even if you put it to sleep, it'll still be there in the background. However, turning the phone off and turn it back on means they've got to reconnect to you and get you to re-download that thing to get it working again. I believe that's right. Please correct me, folks, if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to help with this.
Okay.
Berkshire Hathaway, Mr. Warren Buffett, Guy, almost 47.8% of the Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio is Apple shares. So, folks, if you're
Wow.
with them and Apple takes a dive, you watch your shares take a dive as well.
Or if he gets mad at Apple and just dumps all of his shares.
Yeah. Apple have got to keep him happy, haven't they? Former App Store director criticizes review process and blames Phil Schiller for app rejections. Now, this is Philip Shoemaker. He's a former App Store director, and he was responsible.
Hold on. So Philip Shoemaker is criticizing Philip Schiller for App Store rejections.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in a board meeting? All right, Phil, yes. No. Phil S. Yes. Philip Schill. Yes.
Well, that doesn't happen anymore because this guy left the company in 2016.
South of going.
Yeah, another one. Apple is going to appeal a court ruling that it illegally and coercively interrogate. Oh, I've done that one. Sorry, folks. I've been and reread a story that
sometimes these stories just need to be resaid there, guys.
Sometimes they do. iPhone 14's crash detection has been blamed for a 5-fold increase in false 911 calls at the Bonnaroo Festival. I think people have been enjoying themselves far too much at that.
Just a little too much. Hope I fell over. I wonder why I fell over. Hey, give me another drink.
Apparently, there was a report out saying the Apple Vision Pro top strap helps headset weight issue, but Apple might not include it in the box. So it's going to be an extra. The speculation on this thing is going to be rife for a year, isn't it?
This is for a device, folks, that isn't even coming out until next year. We don't really know what it's going to look like. I mean, we've seen how they demonstrated it. That does not mean that's the finished product. It does not mean that at all.
That guy is the end of Gazzy Snippets.
It's the end of my patience. That's what that is. What's wrong with people?
What's wrong with people?
You know, you think you spend $3,500 on a device and it would be perfect right out of the gate, but apparently not. All right. Yeah, sometimes I think Gaza snippets sometimes exists just to rile me up. I think that you pick out the stories, Gaz, that I'm going to have an emotional reaction to.
I can't imagine that I would do that to you at all, guy.
You can neither confirm nor deny those accusations.
No, absolutely, I cannot.
All right, well, what we're going to talk about, if I can get my act together, there were big Caduans. I don't even know if that's a word. Caduans.
It is now.
At the White House that involved the CEOs of some of the biggest tech companies in the world, including Tim Cook of Apple. I have to go back and get these names. Sundar Pichai of Alphabet and Satya Nadella of Microsoft, and they all met with the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi.
Yep, that'll do.
That guy.
Modi. Yep.
To discuss the challenges of investing in India for large tech companies. The media has been framing it as retail and potential AI development, but in my opinion, the more reasonable expectation is that it's likely related to manufacturing opportunities. You know, I see these stories where, Tim Cook comes out of the White House after speaking with the Indian Prime Minister, and they're like, does this mean you can open more Apple stores in India? And I can just imagine the thought process in Tim Cook's head. It's like, yes, because where we make our real money is opening Apple stores in countries that can barely afford to buy our products. That's where we make our real money. So,
Oh, well,
why would
what I
go
need to
ahead.
do is just go and find where India are, find that story, and I'll dig around while you carry on.
Exactly. So I mean, why would Apple and Microsoft and Alphabet be looking at manufacturing potential in India? Well, frankly, with tensions rising between the US and China, which is where most manufacturing and tech is conducted these days, having a more diverse area for important products like Apple's iPhones is a way to reduce that risk. And I think everyone understands those risks a little bit better based on the supply chain problems we had, not just through COVID-19, but the aftermath of COVID-19. And currently, besides China, there's a big push for Taiwan, South Korea, Vietnam, and now India for making tech stuff. And for everyone who sits there and says, well, why don't they just build some of those plants in the US? Well, there's a really, really good reason why that hasn't been happening, because what's required to create large scale manufacturing plants isn't just the land to build the plant, of which there's plenty here in the US, but the rest of the infrastructure to bring in the raw materials and move the finished or semi finished products from one part of the country to another. Another component, probably even more important, is having educated people capable of working in and with small scale components. It's, you know, when you look at manufacturing of things like washers and dryers and refrigerators and TV sets and all the things that used to happen in, the Northeast of the United States and places like that, it's a completely different world now. There's so much tech that's now built in, even to the most mundane of products, that it's not as simple as just, sitting someone down and saying, okay, well, put this thing on this thing and then you're good to go. It just doesn't work that way anymore. Um, and because of the smaller size of some of these countries, as well as the more, let's say, progressive way that they can move qualified people around as compared to the US or the UK, EU, getting qualified people to move to an area where a large factory is being built is easier in some of these countries than in others. And China was particularly good at this, but there's a lot of rising problems in China as well. I actually saw a story on CNN, and it's mainstream media, so who knows? But there's the graduating class of this year, besides posting pictures of them with their families and, with, yay, I'm a graduate now and all that other happy stuff, are also posing for pictures where they're laying down, face down on the ground or on a bench with their head between their legs, because there's a lot of unemployment going on right now in China. And these are not stupid people. These are people coming out of college with advanced degrees, and they're having trouble finding jobs. And these kinds of rising problems within China is likely making companies realize their mistakes of having all of their eggs in one basket, and it's motivating companies to move their manufacturing bases around to prevent potential disruptions of not just COVID-19 types, but political conflicts and all the rest of that. And India is likely to be a major tech manufacturing hub in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think that is why a lot of these companies are courting India as a potential future problem. Sorry, partner, not problem. Might be
Well,
a
no,
problem for China.
well, no, but I mean, it's cyclical, isn't it, Guy? And what
It
will
is.
happen is in, 10, 20, 30 years, well, however long it may or may not be that long, we'll have exactly the same conversation, because, and it's not just that, it's also about the cost of labor as well. We'll have the companies going, yeah, we shouldn't have put all our eggs in one basket and moved it to India, because we've now got, most of the manufacturing being done in India, whereas it used to be done in China, and we moved it.
Used to
Yeah,
be done in Japan, or it used to be done in South Korea.
yeah, unless we truly spread it around, which I don't think they're doing that much of. It'll loop round, and then what will happen is eventually the manufacturing will come back home, because we'll all be so poor because these other countries have gained off the back of this manufacturing process. No, it's cyclical. It goes around, and it'll get moved.
It is.
And
It is.
I just hope that I know the regime in China is somewhat, which is causing consternation for some people as well. Whereas within India, it shouldn't be quite such a problem. But for me, these spam houses and the scammer houses that are in India, they need to start being a little bit more, harsh on taking those companies or those people who run these companies
out of
it's
action.
not really a company, out of action, and put them in prison, because not enough of that is happening in India. It's almost going, it's only a little bit, don't worry about it. But it's apparently it nets a lot of money for these guys, and that
No, it's not just India.
well.
It's also Pakistan and
Yeah.
other countries.
It's not. Absolutely. But if India wants, I think they've just got to put a bit more. It's not really related to what you're talking about here, but it's just something which, from an ethical stance of how the country is, people will take that ethical view on whether they want to buy a company's product. Now, most people just look at the price, which is a shame, because really, I think you should be looking at the ethical end-to-end process of purchasing and owning a product. But it comes down to money.
It usually does.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, and so you're nodding your head in agreement, or is that a clue for me? I think
it's a clue for you.
It is.
Hit it. Gaz's tips.
Mostly.
Gaz's tips.
Mostly.
Gaz's tips.
It's time for
Gaz's tip.
I know I've done this before. I'm going to do it again because I use this all the time, especially on my Mac. Command, Option, Shift, and V. If you've ever copied something from somewhere where the formatting of that copied text normally is different to where you want to paste it, if you use Command, Option, Shift, and V, it will paste that copied text into your current document, and it won't have any formatting on it. It will use the formatting of the where the cursor is on your current document. I use this on a regular basis. There's one more, guy. I've got one. If you are on Safari, let's say you want to you're always going to a number of different websites, or you're searching for something specifically. So did you know that you could type in, and I'm going to use the BBC here because it's the easiest one to use. If you typed in BBC in Safari in the URL bar, if you typed in BBC and then left a space and then typed the word rugby, for example, one of the options and one of the searches is actually that page from that site. So what Safari is doing, and I'm sure perhaps Google does this as well, but what it's doing is actually returning the search within the website. So if you've gone BBC and then typed a word, it will search the BBC website for that word and give you a link to that page and its best guess. I just come across this and I find it quite useful for those web pages where you go to on a regular basis, but you don't want it as a tab on your bar or a quick link. Then this is an easy way to get there.
Yes, it is.
Hit it. That's the end of Gaz's tips. That's the end of Gaz's tips. That's the end of Gaz's tips.
Is that the end of the tip?
Will you let me finish?
Gaz's tips.
Gaz, you are absolutely right.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't know why that makes me laugh every single time, but it does. No, for pick's sake this week. However, lots of news over in the Ukraine and Russia this week. which we're not going to get into because we're not that kind of show. But if you would like to make a donation to the Ukrainian Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders, there will be links in the show notes, or you can just look them up on your very own by possibly using the tip that Gaz just told you about. He just told you about them just now. You can go to the Ukrainian Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders, which are two excellent organizations to make donations to, and make those donations to make someone happy. Go ahead and make someone happy. Yeah, I really miss my calling as a lounge singer, Gaz. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you did miss it, but that's good for us.
Really, because I wouldn't have been doing this podcast.
Correct.
So there's
Correct.
a plus in everything.
By the way, India is it cost Indians 23.4% of their annual salary to buy an iPhone.
Well, yeah, I always enjoy spending 1/4 of my salary for a throwaway device every year. Those kids, they don't need to eat. My God, what is wrong with people? All right. We have some audio feedback this week, Gaz.
Oh, blimey.
Guess who it's from?
Charlie.
You know, that close. That close. It's from NC Greg. And I guess he's been inspired because of the jokes that we've been getting from Mac Jim and Carl.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of these three jokes, you can't really just put one after the other at the end of the show. They have to all kind of run together for it to make sense. So we're going to do that right now. And NC Greg, thank you. And no, don't worry about the content. Don't worry about the context. We just like playing the jokes. Here it is.
Hey guys, it's Greg from North Carolina. Got a joke for you. Why do you never see elephants hiding in the trees? Because they're really good at it. Why did the elephants paint their testicles red? So they could hide in the apple trees. What is the loudest sound in the jungle? Giraffes eating apples right out of the trees.
Huh.
Nice. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. Boy, those apples, they must get loud.
I'm never going to paint my plums red.
Yeah, it's kind of putting me off apples, I got to say. If you would like to help support this program, you can so very easily do so by going to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Macparrot. You can also go and buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/Macparrot. And lastly, if you would like to pay a pal, and who wouldn't not like to pay a pal? You can go to paypal.me/Macparrot. Now, Gaz.
Yes.
If someone wanted to contact you and say, why aren't you eating more red apples? How would they do so?
Ever so easy. Just send an email to Gaz, G-A-Z-M-A-Z at mymac.com. You can also send a tweet on the Twitters to twitter.com/Gazmaz, G-A-Z-M-A-Z. I'm also on Counter Social and Mastodon. Mastodon, it's Gazmaz at c.im. You can also send a tweet to the Twitter account Guy and Gaz, twitter.com/Guy and Gaz, G-Y-A-N-D-G-A-Z. Wait for it. Z.
Card.
You can also send an email to feedback@mymac.com, F-W-E-D-B-A-C-K at mymac.com.
His name was Guy.
Guy?
Guy's the one. You remember Guy?
He's the guy. Pay no attention to that guy behind the curtain.
Guy was paid his 75 grand.
No.
Do we know it was a guy? I like to go with Guy.
Guy says...
I screwed up.
If you want
An email from Guy.
How would they do it, Guy?
Oh, it is so very easy. You would go and send that email to Guy at it gets more dramatic every week, folks. Guy at MyMac every week. Guy at MyMac.com. You could also send that to podcast at vertshark.com. There we go. And if you want to find me over on the Twitters, you can go and look at Macparrot or VertShark over there on the Twitters. I am also on Counter Social and Mastodon at Macparrot, and that my instance would be Mastodon. See, we need to have like some kind of growling elephant noise for every time we say Mastodon.social. Let's see what else. We have a Skype telephone number, guys. Greg from NC knows what it is, and now I'm going to tell all of you as well. That number, Gaz, is 1 or +1 outside of the United States. 703-436-9501. That number again is 1 or +1 outside the United States. 703-436-9501. Or if for some reason a 1 or a +1 makes you break out in hives, and I'm sure somewhere in the world that actually is a thing.
Absolutely.
Can't imagine how or why, but
it?
Don't sue us because of it. You can just go right to that Skype application, throw out that 1 or +1, and just dial 703-436-9501. Now, there's one other number, I believe, Gaz. Do you know what that number is?
I think, yes. It's 703-828-4677. And that apparently is a Google voice number. 703-828-4677.
We do not get enough people calling that number, so please try that number too. We like that number. It's a good number. I don't think it says anything. It's not like it's 4335, which I think spells geek. I'd have to ask the
person who knows.
And I'm blanking on the podcast name for some reason.
Well,
what
the
is
MyMac
it?
guys, not the MyMac guys, the Geek Gab.
Yeah, Geek Gab. There we go. See, you're just as bad as I am, Mister.
Well, at least I remembered it eventually.
Eventually, I'm still sitting there going, I don't know. I just can't figure it out. I would like to say to all of you, thank you so very, very much. Not just for your feedback, not just for the things that you do to get like a Woody or something like that, just for downloading and listening. Gotta listen to this podcast. It is greatly appreciated, and we both thank you so very, very much. And I think, Gaz, that this week I wanted to throw in Mahatma Gandhi here someplace, but it's just not going to work. So we're good enough. We're smart enough. And Mahatma Gandhi, God darn it, doggone it, Wilf. Bless that little pup. People like us. Till then.
Guy, what do you call a pile of cats? A meowtin.
Oh.
End.
So you can all go home and there's nothing to worry about. Get out of here now. Go on home and go home.